We are live, people. Late night episode of the Money Stop coming your way. This is episode 9. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We are just getting back from Homestead. It was a short plane ride, um, not really far from here. So um, we are very, very excited to be with you guys tonight. There's just a lot on this little checklist that we have to talk about. So yeah. First, I want to say though, congratulations, Laner, on your first win of the season. Very very exciting, and you know, it. What is it? Race 6 or 7 now that we're done, or somewhere around there. Just
Yes.
I think I'm glad you got it early because, like I said in my post race interview, now you have time to build on that and creates momentum for the team. So congratulations to you guys. I don't know. Walk me through what you're what you're thinking.
Well, honestly, I thought we had a really fast car all night. Um, we would work our way up to the front, and we got taken out several times during the race, and we just had to keep working our way back to the front. But our team never gave up, and we didn't lose sight of what the end goal was, even when we faced adversity. So we got the track position at the end, and once that car got clean air, it was really fast. So we were able to capitalize on that.
And obviously, too, like the win locks you guys in. So does it change your outlook now going forward? Well, it most likely does, but I guess like more so, my question would be, do you guys race differently now every week, or is it still the same mentality?
I don't really think we race any differently. I think we still want to go win every week, just get more valuable playoff points. But it definitely does take a little bit of pressure off. If you have a bad race or two, then you kind of have something to fall back on. So, I mean, no, it doesn't really change anything, but it is nice to know that you're locked in, so you don't really have to sweat about it.
Right. And now, because myself, you, and Icy are locked in. So now, really, only Slater has to be locked in. But Slater hasn't really been here, so that's kind of a topic for another time. There's been some drivers filling in for him. Hopefully, he'll be back soon and maybe get him locked into the playoffs. But for now, we've got 3 drivers locked in, so that's pretty good. Um, all right, awesome. Well, I mean, we can talk about the race itself first, and then kind of dive into more the nitty gritty and what we're really kind of here to talk about. But I guess from my perspective, I thought the race was really good. I know that a lot of people won't think that, but I feel like we had a really good car, and this was a race and a track where it required patience and some braking, but it required a lot of patience and just timing. Timing was very important. I think that, like, if you timed your passes right and you were very patient in passing other cars, then you would say that you had an awesome race tonight. But if you were kind of coming into this race and you knew you were going to struggle and you struggled tonight, then you probably say different. But I feel like for our team, uh, and I alluded to it in the post race interview, but we just did not have a good car in practice, and we switched things around. We made like wholesale changes, like major changes to the setup um, before qualifying, and somehow it stuck. I guess I don't know how it did, but and then we used the same setup for the race, and it seemed to work pretty well, especially even went into like finding a rhythm. But I feel like for the racing itself, I think the racing was good. I like the fact that it wasn't a pack race because every time we come here, it is always a pack race, and it got very tiring and it was very intense every time, and it just didn't like it wasn't enjoyable. Because you if you get wrecked, you were out of the pack, so it kind of
Yeah.
sucked. But I feel like I was able to enjoy this race more because even if you got taken out from like the lead or second or third, then you could still crawl your way back up or at least pick up a couple positions. So I feel like for me, and it might be a little controversial, I enjoyed the race. Laner, what about you?
Um, I think I don't know. I mean, the racing it was okay. I just didn't really like the fact that you kind of were forced to move people out of the way to make passes. I mean, yeah, if you were patient, it seems like people were kind of sliding up the track a little bit. Um, but to make a pass that way, you're kind of going to be filling a hole that might not really be there. So, I mean, I think there were some decent passing opportunities, but I don't know if I would like to see this exact package return to Homestead. Maybe a similar one, but not this exact one. Um, I also, I mean, I feel like there were a few times like people were able to kind of separate themselves from the lead, which was nice. So I don't know. I think it was a decent race. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it was very one groove, drafting, pushing, all that typical stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was definitely frustrating with the whole like bumping out of the way stuff. And that was kind of just the product of it being like a one lane racetrack, but hopefully with the multi-groove update that fixes that, and people can kind of spread out more, um, and we won't have to rely on using the bumper. But I know that that was some frustrations among people tonight, unfortunately. But yeah, I would say it wasn't a bad race, and I didn't listen to the broadcast. It was a very different listening experience tonight. It was very quiet, so I have no comments for the broadcast at this time. But I am definitely gonna watch back on the broadcast later and see just see what was going on in Time's head as the race was going. But um, is there anything else you wanted to add from the race, or do you want to move on?
Um, well, I don't know if we had this as a topic, but I feel like people really need to learn to not push each other going into a turn. Like,
That
and
is that's actually kind of what we were going to get into next. I was going to get
okay,
into the whole
that's a
like driver
great
respect thing.
segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to like call names out, but there was a specific somebody that doesn't typically race in this series, and they came in, and I mean he was racing hard. He was actually doing pretty well. He worked his way up to the front, but I personally, and I know a lot of other drivers in the field, did not appreciate the way that he got to the front and the way he was racing people once he did get up to the front. Um, but it wasn't just him. I mean, it was like a combination. Like, we literally had a big one on lap one because we're bump drafting going into turn one. Like, lap one of an 80 lap race, and we're pushing each other into turn one. Like, I don't know. I just think it's super unnecessary, and we need to learn to give each other a little bit of breathing room, especially early in the race. Like, lap one out of 80, we don't need to be bump drafting going into turn one.
Yeah, I feel like for me, my whole outlook on that is different because this league is known for struggling with that. Giving room, having some respect in between races. And it's been a struggle, I feel like, since season two, I would say, at the very earliest, or season three of Rocar. But I feel like for me, I I think that there was a lot of elements tonight of aggression and a lot of disrespect among everybody. Um, we're racing like truck series drivers in a way. Um, and I feel like, and this is completely being honest, I feel like everybody at least did something once tonight that was very either aggressive or um, was, either just shoving people out of the way or, it was making a very unnecessary move. I feel like everybody did that at least once tonight. So, like, you can't really blame anybody. But there was definitely some drivers doing it more than others. And that's the part that really nicks me. So, but I feel like my thing with the driver respect is that it stems from a lot of previous races. Like, this didn't start tonight. It didn't start this season. It started a long, long time ago. And I don't know how or if there's a way to get around it, but I feel like a part of it just comes from the drivers and then the way that the cars are handled. Um, because the cars drive very differently than um like other cars that I've driven in other leagues, but the car just naturally drives differently and reacts differently in traffic and among other cars. So I feel like part of it plays in with the car, but also just the way people drive the car. Um, so I don't know. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if there's a way to get around that, but I feel like for me, like I no longer find this stuff enjoyable. Not at least like I used to back when I started or back when I was like most dominant. Um, Mostly like the new guys have made it kind of disappointing for me. And it doesn't really seem very fun to me anymore. Like I said, but I don't know. It's part of it. But yeah, I was a little upset after tonight. Just the way everybody raced, and then just what everybody was complaining about and everything that took place after the race. I feel like it's become more and more difficult now to hold your composure, and I don't understand why. Like, it's fucking Roblox, dude. Like, it's not that serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like um I don't know, like yeah, the newer guys definitely race more aggressively in my opinion, and it almost like forces our hand like with the more veteran drivers, like if you still want to be competitive and win races, you're going to have to race the same way, or otherwise you're not going to win races. So I think the league is kind of turning into I don't know. I wouldn't say like checkers or wreckers, but it's definitely turning into a league that you have to be aggressive. And if you're not comfortable with pushing people out of the way or taking gaps that are probably not really there, like things like that, borderline dirty moves, you're really not going to be very successful in this league, which is really kind of disappointing. And I'm really hoping that with the multi-groove update and some of the things like that, maybe some of these issues will kind of be addressed naturally. But for right now, it definitely is very frustrating.
And I feel like too, and I'll let you respond to this. I'll leave this kind of as an open question, but do you think that this opens the discussion for creating a new car or creating an alternative way to avoid stuff like this?
Are you're talking about like a whole new car, like for the league, right? Like the game?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm like breaking news here, but we've actually been working on a new car recently.
Okay.
it's similar to the car we drive now. Like it'll basically act the same way. There will be a few smaller differences, but um, once we get that new car in and the multi-groove stuff, we feel like that should address a lot of these issues.
Um, and if I may ask, what would be different about that new car, if anything?
I mean, you really won't notice anything too much from a driver's perspective. The car will handle a little bit tighter naturally. So, like right now, the car's kind of neutral, unless you adjust it, obviously. But the newer car, it's going to be naturally tighter. So, um, and it's not as smooth, I guess I would say. Like it's kind of a little bit more difficult to handle, which I personally feel like is a good thing because that puts more into the driver's hands. Um,
Right.
right now, you don't control much over your race. I mean, everybody's running the same line. It's basically a game of Russian roulette. So um, it'll kind of come down more to who can handle their car the best and make the correct adjustments.
And kind of staying on the topic too, I appreciate all that because that kind of gives our viewers the reassurance that there is fixes coming, hopefully on the car side of things. But um, kind of diving back into the whole driver respect thing. I think another thing that I saw tonight, but really like it didn't hit me until tonight about how much there was, but there was a lot of complaining, like a lot. And I don't know, like it's just for various things, like um whether it's like crashing or just not being happy with stage positions or points or um at the end like getting wrecked for a win, or it's just, this is again stemmed from a lot of previous races, but it didn't hit me until tonight just how much complaining that there has been. I don't understand why we can't just drive the car as drivers and keep your complaints either to yourself or to your team. Because, like, in my opinion, I think that those complaints kind of go on to the other teams. They're put on to the other teams. And we're not directly speaking to each other, but we're kind of indirectly speaking to each other over chat. So it's like, we're still kind of communicating with each other in a different way. And there's a lot of misinterpretations with a lot of things that have been said the past couple weeks. Um, and just a lot of crashes, I think, have led to a lot of misunderstandings in the chat. And I think that, like, and I said this a couple weeks ago, like, why are we complaining for every crash? I feel like, and if it's obviously like you're at fault, then you can own up to it. But if it's a racing incident, I don't understand why we're apologizing every 30 seconds that there's a crash. And like, if you don't get stage points, you don't get stage points. Like, that's it. I don't really know what to tell you, but if you don't get stage points, move on to the next week. You can try again. It's not a big deal. Things are very tight, and if you put yourself in a position to get points and screw yourself out of that, that's the team's fault. So I feel like the complaining overall just has to stop. Just drive the freaking car and be done with it. It's not that serious. But Laner, I'll let you share your thoughts on that because I did want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that tonight, but I also feel like I got wrecked like 5 or 6 times. So I understand that it is difficult in the moment to keep your composure, um, especially if it keeps happening over and over again. But I do agree that it's probably best to just keep your thoughts to yourself and address these issues post race, whether it be in DMs or whatever, um, just so you can kind of hear the other person's side of things, and we aren't creating unnecessary rivalries or conflicts or whatever. Um, because a lot of time these issues are easily resolvable, and they're it's really not that serious. Like you said, I mean, it's just a Roblox game. So, and really, this league, this game, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of a game of luck. Like you can put yourself in the best situation, and you could still get wrecked out and not get any points. So you have to have a little bit of luck on your side. Um, and I mean, sometimes you just get unlucky and you don't have a good race. But I feel like you can do everything right and still end up with no points. So I don't know. It's a tough situation, I guess.
Yeah, it's a situation that doesn't have to be tough, you know? Like, but everybody's making it difficult, um, unfortunately. But oh man, okay. Well, I mean, I guess like before we segment, I think my last thought on this would be like going forward, there needs to be either enforced penalties for this kind of stuff. Um, like if there is intentional wrecking to be found anywhere, or just if something seems off, um, there's room for penalty, then I think that's where that needs to come in because that's the only way to really push that upon drivers to stop that from happening again. And yeah, I feel like penalties and just constant reminders, I feel like helps. But besides
Yeah.
that, I don't really know what to do to
I
stop that.
mean, I feel like it's difficult to it's really hard to tell intent with this game. Like in real life, NASCAR can look at SMT data and you know exactly like if a driver hooks far left, it's pretty obvious that they intentionally wreck someone.
Right.
Um, but with this game and league, it's nearly impossible to tell. Like sometimes it's clear as day obvious what the person intended to do. I go back to the season one Real Car 500, which you know all too well.
Oh
Um,
yes, I
and I'm
do.
sure Land would even admit that that was intentional. But to me, like that is clear cut intentional wrecking. But it's really difficult to see or tell intent, I guess, without any data. So I don't know if maybe we would need like a penalty system where maybe I don't know if you wreck someone 5 times during a race, that's like a 5 point penalty, or I don't know, maybe something like that. But I just think it's impossible to really tell somebody's intent. And even if you do know what their intent is, um, they could argue it, and then I mean, it's just a whole situation.
Yeah, it's definitely something up for discussion on how to move forward. Um, but I don't know. We haven't seen anything yet, so I just hope it improves. Because I would hate to see I would hate to see the league end up in a place where there's just no respect among anybody and no enforcement of the rule book. You know, so um, yeah, and like this whole situation of driver respect has really played into whether or not I want to return next season. I'll just kind of put that out there right now. That I have not signed an extension with the team because I'm in a situation where I'm not sure if I want to come back next season. So um, there is that, and I'm playing every factor into it. So yeah, and if I don't come back to SSR next season, I'd be done permanently with full time racing. So I'd be fully retired um, from there. But I haven't made a decision yet, and I'm kind of on the fence. So this is not helping. But you know, there will be a decision at some point. But yeah. Um, I think we can move into the next segment, which I was going to talk about the points, but I think we need to talk about this Kragus thing. I want to spend a couple minutes because
Yeah.
this whole situation is very it's moving very fast. But I'll put the statement up on the screen. So GFM put out just after tonight's race, stating, after long thought and discussion between GFM management, Kragus and GFM have come to the conclusion that it is in the best interest of the team and its driver that he takes his talents elsewhere for the remainder of the season. He has submitted his waiver to leave the team and move on. We will continue to fight for a championship in season 2. And I don't really know what's going on the inside. I don't want to know. It's not my business, and it has nothing to do with me or my racing life. But I don't know why this decision came so soon, mid season, because one, and we'll get into this, we haven't really like put out there yet that this whole waiver thing is a thing. You know, people are not aware that there is a waiver for stuff like this, and um, there's a whole level of uh, transparency that should play into that, with everybody in the league. And I know, at least for me, I was not a part of the conversation with the waiver, but from my understanding, that it's been finalized and that's like now a thing. But like me and you said before the podcast started, this kind of opens up a can of worms for future situations like this and for things that will require a waiver. And just strictly speaking on Craigus leaving the team, I don't understand why, like I said, he left the team so soon, because I feel like, at least, no matter how you feel about who you're racing with or the team that you're on, there's a sense of loyalty to the team that you race for, and your teammates, and to running the team. And this is somebody who held a very high position in the organization as well. This is not just a driver they brought in and he's been driving ever since. He's moved his way up. So to leave so soon was definitely a big surprise for me. But I'm a little disappointed, just because I think if you're going to sign with a team and anticipate to stay with the team, you should be loyal and stay with the team until your contract finishes out. Um, but that's my thoughts on it. Later, I'll let you chime in, because this whole situation is just crazy.
Yeah. I actually felt like this race was Craigis's best race of the season. Now, I know he didn't get the finish that he probably deserved, but I thought he was very competitive tonight. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why he didn't get stage points. I didn't see any of that, but he was running up front for most of the night. And I was really impressed. And they didn't get the finish, but it's still a major improvement from where they have been, um, up to this point. Like, I really feel like that team brought speed to the track today, and in my eyes, that's a really promising thing. In terms of the whole waiver thing, um, I think that there sometimes are external circumstances that could come up. I don't know, like maybe just a toxic team environment, or I mean, that's really the only thing I could think of. I can't really think of anything else. And I guess in that situation, I would think it would be okay to warrant some type of manufacturer change. But I do agree that if you sign with a team before the season, you should stay committed to that team. Um, just due to the fact that if one person does it, then everyone can start doing it, and then it's just like, who's to say I don't want to switch teams tomorrow to, let's say I want to go join Lego's team. Like, can I do that? Um,
Yeah.
could you leave our team tomorrow if you wanted to and go join Lego's team? I'm not saying that that would happen. I'm just saying, like, I like what, and I agree that the waiver thing should be definitely be communicated clearly, because we need to know like what are the circumstances allowed for this waiver. Because am I allowed to go join a different team just because I feel like it, or do, like, like what is the reasons that are allowed to
Not
apply
only
for this
that, but
waiver?
I feel like people need to know um, what are the boundaries of a waiver or not. Like what does it cover?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because like I don't know what Kregis's like you said, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. It's not any of our business. Like I don't want to get into all that. So um I don't know the exact reason that he wants to switch, but I do feel like it should be a very strict thing, and I think it should be discouraged very like harshly. Um so I don't know. I mean, I our season is longer this season, especially, but I'm also on the same page as you. Like, we're only 5 races in, so I feel like there could have been more time. Um, at least stick with the team until the All Star break would be my thought, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what to make of the whole situation. Again, it is still like new. It only came out like maybe 45 minutes ago, so um, it's more newer information to us. So it's still very fluid. The whole situation is still very fluid. But I would assume from just our understanding from where we go from here is that Craigus leaves GFM and will join Rocky Top to field a Cup car, and will switch the manufacturer to Ford. Um, as some may know, Rocky Top has or now had an alliance with GFM, um, but will kind of be a standalone team now that they are switching. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they move forward. Um, I, I'm I'm still a little confused, just the whole background to it, but I was just re-watching the stream, and from what I saw on the stream, it was about like 4 laps to go or three, something somewhere around there. Um, Land got into Craigus and took him out, going into turn three, or on the backstretch, kind of. But Aiden was also involved in that, so um, all GFM cars involved in that. So, or
Yeah, so
or
it
no,
seems like,
he's sorry, he's a different team, but still Toyotas. That's all
yeah.
Toyotas. So I'm not really sure what to make of the whole thing, but it's a mess.
Yeah, there's definitely, it seems like there might be some internal frustrations going on with that team. Um, I don't have any inside information. I like just what I see, what that's what the vibe is to me. Um, And I mean, like, I guess I can understand it. Teammates taking each other out. Craigus should have got a much better finish than he did. Ultimately, he is dead last, and he has no points to show for the day. So I understand him being frustrated. Um, and I really don't know what to make of it. And that's like a whole nother discussion because now I'm wondering, like, is Aiden gonna move to the 54 now? Like, I mean, I don't know because technically he's with a different team, but like, I don't know. I guess I think I saw something earlier that GFM's gonna downsize to 3 cars, so I guess they're just going to have Land, Wendigo, and Jax. Um, but for next season, that would be really interesting to see if they decide to make a switch there or not.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. And it's so early for all of this too, so really anything could happen um, going forward. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I wonder, and we can spend a minute talking about this too. Do we think Craigus would get a waiver? Because if he does not, that would put him back at 0 points, and he would have to start from dead last in points, and he'll definitely be in a must win. But
Yeah,
um,
he'd be in a must win.
yeah, that
Um,
is something I think we should talk about too, because it kind of differentiates the importance of getting approved for a waiver and not. So,
well, I like this kind of goes back to the transparency thing about the waiver because I don't even know what the guidelines are to get a waiver approved.
right.
So, like, I feel like that's definitely something that should we should have more in-depth um, details released about because I don't even know what the approval process is for a waiver. So um, that's definitely something that I would like to know. Um, so I don't know. Like that's a good question because I don't even really know what the approval process is. So I couldn't tell you if he's going to get approved or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say if, uh, yeah, it's hard to tell. Um, I would say if a decision comes down between like the board of directors and stuff, and like we have to take a vote on something like that, then I would say there's probably going to be more individual discussions about if he gets it or not, um, just because of the move so soon, and I'm not sure if we can just put everything down to approve a waiver for a very fluid situation like this. You know what I mean? So um,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be a little bit, but I think a decision will have to definitely be made this week before Darlington, because we'll need to know if he's starting over from zero or if he'll keep the points that he has right now. Because let me put the points up on the screen, and we'll talk about this as well. But right now he's still down there below the cutoff line. He's in 10th with 79 points, but he really hasn't moved much, and obviously he would probably end up right back in 10th place, assuming Rondo doesn't come to any more races. But um, again, it opens up a can of worms for the future and what could happen in a situation like this. It's definitely very interesting to see how it'll play out. But um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's still very new, so anything can happen.
Yeah, and I guess kind of going into the points now, I would almost put that team in a must win even right now. I mean, I don't know. That might be way too early to say that, but um I mean, I like you're kind of you're losing a lot of points to the cutoff. Um
Yeah,
so I don't know. Like I feel like that team should be in a must-win situation even now. So obviously, it's gonna be pretty much mathematically impossible to point your way in if you don't get the waiver. If you do get the waiver, you're still gonna have a lot of work to do to point your way in, but it's definitely a possibility.
Oh, I don't think he's pointing his way in at all. Um, if Jax attends every race and can outscore Kragus, or if somebody above that cut line falls near or just keeps the amount of points to that gap, he does not make it in. I'm sorry, but I think right now he needs to win at all costs. Like, no matter what
Yeah.
happens, this team should be focused on winning. I still think that there is too many points up for grabs to be thinking about pointing your way in. But if he switches to Ford and his waiver gets approved, it's a very different outlook at Ford. So I think that he might have a better chance to win, but still, I don't know. He'll have very different competitors. So it'll be very interesting to see, for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that the it's gonna really come down to Slater's attendance for me, and that's another topic that I wanted to get to. Um, but if Slater keeps missing races like he has, then I think the battle will be between Jax and Kragus for that last spot.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't think getting a sub every race is a long term solution to staying in the points battle. And that kind of gets into what I wanted to talk about is that I don't think it's fair to the people that have attended every race, um, such as, well, I guess Kragus and Jax have attended 4 races, so they missed 1 race. But Slater has only been to 2 races, to my knowledge. I think he was at Coda and he was at Daytona. So to me, it's not fair to people like Kragus and Jax that Slater is ahead of them in the point standings just because he got a sub. So I don't know if the sub rules need to be like tweaked or reconfigured, but in my opinion, I think that attending races should um, definitely be valued above getting a sub driver. Like in my opinion, and I'm Slater's on my team, so like I'm literally coming at this from a neutral angle. I feel like it's unfair um, for Slater. Like, I don't think Slater should be above the cut line right now because if you don't attend races, then I think you should have to suffer for that in the point standings.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I don't think he should be above the cut line at all. Um, and he'll be below the cutoff line after next week, most likely, because that gap, what's that, only 5 points? I feel like Jax has been running good enough to probably outscore him if he attends Darlington next week. Because remember, as a sub, you only get 3/4 points. So I feel like, you know, Jax would
Yeah.
probably be able to overtake him next week. But Slater, I think, is definitely going to fall below the cutoff line. Um, and
I
I
would say,
go ahead.
sorry. I would say maybe that rule should be changed to like half, maybe
Yeah,
like 1/2 points, because I think 3/4 is a little much. That's just
yeah.
my personal opinion, but I think half points would be a better option.
And I will say this too because I've said this many, many times before. I do not like subs for the specific reason that it rewards missing races. Um, it highlights the fact that, oh, I can miss a race because somebody will just fill in for me. You know what I mean? Like it really glosses over the importance of trying to be at the races. And it allows these drivers to just miss out. and that's something I've never liked about the subs. I've always, you can ask anybody, I've always been against subs since day one. Um, I've had subs, but I didn't like having them. They didn't always work out in my favor when I had them, so that was part of it. But I cannot stand subs, and
Except
it's
for that
for this
icy
reason.
one.
Well, no, I remember very, very specifically. I missed a race at Pocono in season 1 or 2, and Trix filled in for
Oh my
me,
goodness.
and bro, it was the worst race I've
Yeah.
ever seen. He made me
Oh
look
yeah.
so bad as a driver and as somebody who drove that car. He made me look so bad, and I was just I was so disappointed after that. And like I remember watching on my phone, I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?" Like he was just taking out everybody. He was driving recklessly, and I was like, I never want to sub again. If I'm gonna
Yeah.
miss a race, I'll miss a race and miss out on the points because it's how it should be. If like I said, um, like you shouldn't be awarded for missing races. Did Kyle Larson get awarded points for missing the Coke 600? No, Justin Allgaier got those points. He didn't. You know, like what's the difference? Why are we awarding missing races? So for me, I have a very different opinion and perspective, just given the history that I've had with having subs, but also just I don't think it's fair. Like I think it's a good opportunity to have people in there, no doubt, but when you know that you're going to be missing out every week, that becomes more of a contractual decision than just allowing somebody to fill in. Like you need to probably leave the team if it's going to be an attendance issue, because there's like most of the team is attending races and you're not. I think you know that right there
Yeah.
should be a sign that maybe there needs to be a change in that. So somebody else can maybe fill that seat that's attending more races and maybe deserves that spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Don't get me wrong. I think Slater definitely deserves that spot, but um, I don't think there should be rewards for him missing out. That's all I'm saying. But
Yeah, no, I mean he's more than capable of going out and winning a race, but I if you're not there, then I mean, yeah, you shouldn't reap the rewards for that. And I agree. Like I think it should be similar. Maybe like you've kind of convinced me. Maybe no points would actually be the way to go. Similar to real life. If you miss a race, then I mean you're just gonna have to suffer. But
yeah,
it's the people who are attending races, and it just makes it even more important. Um, so
like
uh,
I know we had this discussion at the beginning of the season and like wanted to include it again, but I knew as soon as we allowed subs back in that it would become a mess like this because you know now this season it's become so much more important to earn points because it's going to be harder to make the playoffs if you're down in a hole like Kragus or like Rondo or somebody that could be falling closer to that line. It's going to be harder to stay in, and there are some drivers around you that are getting points but not even actually racing. Then come playoff time, they could be locked into the playoffs. Like let's say Slater gets locked into the playoffs from either a sub or just locks in on points, just throwing it out there. If he comes back at what's the first race? Let me see. Hold on. If he comes back at the first race at Nashville and wins, or if he finds a way into the second round, game over. That exposes the subsystem right there because that, like, it shows that no matter what happens, anybody can get to the playoffs, and it's not that hard, you know. So, um,
yeah,
I've never been a fan of that whole ordeal, but I'm glad that you finally realize it because it's like I feel like I'm all alone over here. Like I might be delusional or something with that, but um, yeah, I'm not a fan of the subsystem.
Yeah, I also think that tonight I'm not trying to call people out, but you can see from tonight that subs, especially ones that don't race in cup, they come in and it just seems to cause issues. It messes with the chemistry of the league, and I mean they just come in and they plow through everyone, and like it happened. It's literally like clockwork. Like you just said, you mentioned the tricks thing. Like I swear, every time we have a sub, that happens.
Yep.
So they just go out there and they run everybody over. Um,
I don't know if
I've
it's
I've
more
never
so like
seen
they.
anything different.
I don't know if they just haven't had enough time in the car, or they just truly don't care. But
Yeah,
like, if you're gonna sub, at least try to earn some points and to do it in a nice manner. Because I know I wouldn't race you that way. And even if you wreck me or you're bumping me out of the way, I still wouldn't race you that way. Especially if you're a teammate. You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah.
common sense. So, it's like, what the hell? But, um, yeah, I don't know. I really, there's so many things about this league that I would change, but I don't run it anymore, so I can't. But, uh, um,
Yeah, I mean, we are making improvements though, because last season you got locked into the was it championship because IC won a race or was it?
yeah, I see
Yeah,
one, and
yeah,
and
okay,
here I'll say this: I'm glad that Icy locked me in, but I wish I had done it myself. I wish I
yeah.
had the chance to earn it because it feels like with that win, I didn't earn it, and I know I didn't, and I'm so glad Icy got his win, but I
But
wish he had.
you
I
went out
wish he
and
had
won
done it.
Richmond anyway.
Yeah, I know, but I wish he had done it in his own car after so many times of trying. Like the one time he switches cars to sub for somebody, he wins the
Yeah,
race.
right.
So
Yeah,
I feel like just I didn't get the chance to earn it, and that's the one. That's the one part towards the end of the season that really killed me. Just thinking about every week was that I was locked in, but not by my own doing. So I was thankful, but I also was regretful that I wasn't able to be there and to try and lock myself in. Um, but yeah, like there's been a couple instances I know with subs that just have not gone too well, and it has exposed how um, I wouldn't say damaging, but just it exposes uh, how much bad the subs could do more than good, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, definitely.
but yeah,
Um, we just went down a rabbit hole there, but we
yeah, we
didn't
did.
even.
But it's okay. It's okay.
So
We needed to have that
yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But anyways, towards above the cut line, um, Aiden has now climbed out of that points hole, and he is now above the cut line. Lego gained a spot, and Icy missed a race, so um, Wendigo has now jumped up to fourth. So there's a few things shaking up towards the top of the standings. I really think I feel pretty good about like six drivers right now. Um,
Um, I want to add in really quick. Um, I want to add in something that Craig has provided in the chat. Um, he said that in the rulebook there is a clause that says drivers will be expected to attend more than half the races on the schedule for their respective teams. Drivers also will, or it goes on, but it cut off right there. But he said if they don't attend half the races, they're DQ'd from the playoffs. So I think this opens another can of worms um, with this whole shakeup above and below the cutoff line. because you have Rondo and Slater. Those are two drivers right there that have not been attending, and we could really be looking at one person missing out of the playoffs. Really, like realistically, that's how we could be looking at it. And um, I think that. Well, first I'll let you continue. I'll let you continue. I'm sorry I cut you off, but I didn't know if you saw that. So
No, 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 I did not. But I I feel good about like 6 drivers right now. In terms of the playoffs, um, there's probably about 2 spots I kind of think are up for grabs at this point. And I'm not gonna name names, but because I don't really want to call anyone out or anything like that. Because it's really, I mean, it really is just an opinion at the end of the day. But I feel
exactly.
really good about I feel really good about 6 drivers up there, and then there's 2 spots that I kind of think could be up for grabs.
Yeah, I'm really looking at this bubble at the cutoff line. I would say from like fifth down, maybe even fourth down, nobody's safe. Um, from Slater all the way up to Wendigo, it's too close of a gap. Um, like it's too close of a gap. So for me, I only feel safe about the top three right now, just considering that all of those drivers above the cutoff line, plus Jackson Craigus, have been attending races in some capacity. Obviously, Slater here and there. Um, the car is at the race at least, but um, it's too close for me to really make a call on who's safe because, like, we thought Craigus was safe tonight and he got spun at the end of the race. And
Yeah,
it, it kind of cost him in the points at the end. Plus, not getting stage points, it cost him. But, if there's a situation like that, you could drop 3, 4 positions in one race. So I feel like one, consistency is key, but two, we really won't know what we're looking at with a playoff field and where people seed maybe until Martinstown, until the cutoff race, because um, everybody's been attending races mostly for the most part on this list. So everybody has chance to get points. Everybody has a chance to win. So I don't know. It's just going to be really, really hard to tell. But I would say from fourth on down, I'm kind of going to be watching that battle until we get to the cutoff race. The top three, myself, you, and Laner or Land. Um, I'm not really worried about just because there is a gap, but also um, all three of us are locked in. So there is something to that. Icy is also locked in, but has not been attending, so it's been affecting him more, and now he's in that conversation to be kind of around the cutoff line. Um, but yeah, it's just I think like you need to be consistent in attending. That's the most important thing. Also, I just noticed this. You didn't put that you had a win. You
yeah,
put
I
zero.
noticed that too.
I was like, wait a second. But
Yeah, I didn't want to count it. I didn't want the win.
eh,
Um, but yeah, I but Land's gonna be interesting too if he ends up missing time. Um,
oh yeah, I forgot
I mean
about that.
he'll I mean there's still a lot of stuff to be decided. I mean we're only 5 races in. We haven't even hit the All-Star break yet, so these are way too early reactions. Obviously, we're nowhere near setting the playoff field, so a lot can still happen.
Agreed. But we bring the points to you every week, and we'll do that until we get to Texas in a couple months' time. So uh, I don't know. Just it's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out and who makes it and who doesn't, and who who most importantly who wins and um, who will have to fight their way in on points. But yeah, so far we have 4 different winners, so pretty good. I would say like it's probably just under half the field, so um, we've had a good variety of winners already this season. So maybe a couple more drivers can click off some wins coming up. But
Yeah.
alrighty, moving into the next segment here. So, um, and let me know what your thoughts are on this. Should this version of Homestead return, or do you think we should go back to the old version?
Um, I absolutely think this version should return. Um, I just think we might need a different package or something along those lines. But to me, like it's night and day better than the one with the ramps.
Hmm. The Rams had a lot of issues, and like I liked it, but it was like I said, it was a pack race a lot, so a lot of time, so it wasn't very enjoyable. But I will say that I really enjoyed this version, and um, I liked how there was a little bit more of a different approach to the turns. Some people dove it in. Some people were more conservative on the braking and just conserving the tires. But I would say that yeah, I would definitely keep this new version going forward. It definitely is a lot better than the other version. In terms of a package, I'm not really sure. Um, yeah, in terms of a package, I'm not really sure like what could even be a good replacement for that, but um, it's something definitely to be explored before maybe if it comes back on the schedule, maybe before the Cup Series comes back here next season.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could produce better racing with a better package, but I still don't think tonight's event was really that bad overall. So
Yeah, I think people are being a little dramatic about it, if I'm being honest. Like, kind of overdoing it, but whatever.
yeah,
Um, so, we also had another big uh, kind of breakthrough for us tonight on the podcast. We had the money stop cars out on track tonight. Obviously, Laner won the race with the money stop car, and I finished third with the other car. Um, this was like really fun for both of us, and it was. I don't know how it was for time. Like if he ever mixed up our names or our cars at all during the broadcast. I hope he didn't, but I'm sure he did at some point. Because it just happens. Like you're seeing double, so it just kind of happens on instinct. But um, I really enjoyed running the same car with you tonight and representing the podcast. We've come a long way in planning this whole podcast thing, so it's definitely very cool to see our podcast out in the car and out running on the track. So I hope we get to do it again though, because it was very enjoyable. But yeah,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, the cars looked great. They both ran great. I mean, we qualified on the front row, so um, I am looking forward to potentially running them again sometime this season.
yeah, we already have the cars made, so we can kind of just decide whenever to run it if we want. But yeah, maybe we'll run these cars again. Who knows? All right, so holy moly, we are just over an hour into this episode. Let's talk about Darlington because Darlington is a different beast. I know only some people can comment on this because just who was running in the race last season, but Darlington is an animal. Like I don't know how it's going to be with a full field, but at least with 4 cars, it was insane. Just the
Yeah.
racing and the strategy and um, everything that played out. I think this race is going to get very spread out easily. Might not at first, but I think because the tires wear so quick, um, that when people start pitting, things will get spread out. And I think there's definitely going to be some strategy next weekend. But let me see. We've got Darlington, and then we've got um,
North
I,
Wilkesboro.
yeah, we've got the All Star race. So this is really like a good chance to score some points before the All Star race, like because the All Star race is kind of like a considered a week off, like because not everybody will be allowed to run in the race, so it could be a good chance to score some points before having the week off for just not running for points. But um, yeah, let's talk about Darlington for a second. So uh, we'll probably have a maybe 8 9 cars, I would assume.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to the most, Laner, and what are you watching when we get to Darlington?
Um, I don't really know what to expect with a field that large. Um, I don't know if it'll get messy and we'll have a lot of restarts or if it'll get spread out like you said. I think it has the potential to produce really good racing though. I guess it'll really just depend on how people race and I think there are more lines that you can use at Darlington though, so I don't expect it to be as messy as tonight was. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we can see some passing throughout the field.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're definitely in for a good race, and definitely a lot of maneuverability within the race itself. But I'm looking forward to getting there and seeing what we've got. I think I'll probably be running Gatorade again, if I'm being honest, but um, or maybe I'll whip out another scheme that I haven't shown to the public yet. But I don't know. We'll have to see. But um, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or was that really it?
I mean, I guess regarding Darlington,
Homestead,
or
Darlington, just anything we
um,
talked about.
no, not really. I mean, I guess we need to rate the race though and give our predictions for next week.
Yeah. I'll let you go first. I went first last week, so
Okay. I don't. All the pressure's on me now. I'm going first.
I mean, you won the
I
race. You know, you.
yeah. I'll give it. I'll give it a 70%. I
Okay.
think it was a decent race. Um, but it wasn't perfect. I don't really have any major complaints with it. I thought it was okay. Um, I think there was quite a bit of shuffling throughout the field, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same ballpark. I think I'm going to stick with an 80%. It's one of my more liked races, I think, um, and I definitely did enjoy the racing and just I there was a lot going on outside of the racing, but I would say um, with everything put together, I would give it a solid 80%. Um, and hopefully this race comes back next season. I really enjoyed it. And even if I'm not racing or if I'm commentating or just a spectator, I look forward to hopefully watching this race again next season.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
okay, cool. Well, I think that is it. But um, a reminder to tune in next weekend. Uh, Darlington, I don't know the times yet because again, just finished up the race tonight, so that stuff will be out probably sometime next week. But definitely tune in next weekend. I believe both series will be running, so um, it'll be an exciting weekend for sure before we head off to the All Star race. And yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you guys again for tuning in and for all your support. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great night, and we'll see you after Darlington.